Well, thank you all for coming. Thanks for
Right.
joining us, Ted. And I guess to begin with, we're in Washington. What we care about in Washington right now is factories that make stuff. The economy is there's a sense in the White House that the thing they care about is manufacturing. You are, and you never hear about the trade surplus in services like streaming.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the entertainment industry like gets a bad rap here that nobody takes you seriously?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bad rap, but it certainly gets overlooked as an industry. I think it's easy to forget, but Netflix alone, I think about from 2020 through 2024, contributed $125 billion to the U.S. economy, created 140,000 production jobs, um, 500 productions. We have shot films or television in all 50 states. It's the lion's share of our investment is in the U.S. So we have 9,000 employees and two, 3 million feet of studio and 2 million feet of office space, primarily in California. But I do think it gets overlooked as an industry. So we get kind of thrown under the bus in trade deals occasionally. People forget that this is a real business. So
Yeah, I mean, do you think this
you
administration?
hardly ever see a sitting president photographed on a studio lot. Yeah, and I
You
just
would think this one would be into it.
yeah, you think I'm not sure. I was thinking about it like when we went to Mexico, we announced a $1 billion investment in production in Mexico with the president on her morning press conference. And I was thinking if we were, building a plant to build $1 billion worth of cars there, the president would certainly announce that. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, do you think this administration specifically is getting it wrong? I mean, on services broadly. I mean, do you think maybe young Americans are more interested in growing up to be production assistants and set builders than they are factories? Is that?
I think it's feasible that there's an evolution in the culture around the way people want to work and how they work, what they value, that is more aligned with what you're talking about.
The other big theme of Washington right now is deglobalization.
Yeah.
Um, you know, in cultural kind of deglobalization too. You guys are going right in the opposite direction. Netflix is an incredibly global company. I think Squid Game was the most watched global production ever of anything. Um, how do you think about navigating those streams?
The way that we are at the same time a tech company and entertainment company, we are a local company and a global company, wherever, depending on where you're sitting. So our Korean team feels very much like it's a Korean company. They're able to make great programming like that for Korea because there's no focus on making it global. In fact, there's no discussion about making anything from a local country global. If you look at right now our current enormous success with Adolescent,
Yeah,
it is a remarkably British show.
and maybe people should. Do you want to just tell people this is? I literally lost sleep last night watching it.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are
Did
watching.
his homework. Did his homework.
Incredibly disturbing show about a 13-year-old boy who commits a horrible crime that's all filmed in one take.
Four 1-hour episodes, all shot in one take, and it's Jack Thorne and Stephen Graham created it, and it's a remarkable feat of technical storytelling, but also, as you saw, it's an incredible story and incredibly
And
acted,
it's
and it's very much in driving the discussion in the UK right
yeah,
now.
and you saw. I don't know if people saw this. There was the conservative leader Kimmy Badenoch did an interview where the interviewer was incredulous she hadn't seen it and started asking her, "How could you not have watched this?"
Yes, I never
What
seen.
was your reaction to that?
I've never seen anyone get shamed for not watching a TV show so much. It was
Do you think
we're
she should? I mean, do you think it's appropriate that she should be ashamed?
Well, the thing that she was talking about is of such great interest that I guess I rotate towards. I get so much information and context and color around a story from TV and film, and the fact that everyone in the country is.
She said she was too busy to watch TV. Is that an acceptable excuse in this day and age?
I don't believe anyone who says that.
But I do want to talk a little more about that show because I assume that's being watched outside Britain now as well. Is it hitting
It's
globally?
an enormous success all over the world, like I said, and it's extremely British. It's the very first show in the UK that we've made. In fact, it's the first streaming show that topped the ratings in the UK. So just like everywhere else in the world, the UK has been incredibly slow to the migration from broadcast and linear television to streaming. But this is the first show that topped the ratings, beat the BBC, beat all the broadcast shows, and it's a big hit around the world. And the thing about it, like I said, it's so British that most of you will probably watch it with subtitles, even though it is in English.
But it's
Yeah.
specifically about a young boy who is kind of radicalized online into a kind of misogyny and violence. And
It's a very of the moment story. I mean, that's what people are excited about, and I do think you come into it from so many different ways. As a parent, it's a very difficult watch. I think as a film lover, a television lover, you're gonna love the way they made it. The performances are off the charts, and it's just like I said, it's something completely different that probably would have never got made under normal conditions of television.
do you, I mean, about I think the one of the I said this earlier, but, like, it's most fun sometimes to talk to you as a programmer rather than as an executive, that is how you came up, and I know what you think about a lot. Are there lessons, I mean, really specifically around the themes of that show, which are honestly, like, very hard to get your arm I mean, I think as a creator, like, that's a very challenging, tough subject. Do you feel like will we see more of that? Is it po do you see is there other stuff that you
I think honestly, every time you push the boundaries of storytelling a little bit, it inspires everyone else to step up a little bit more and not soften the edges of the story.
the, to switch to your role as an executive.
It was very short-lived, that discussion.
I was opening it up. I would talk about adolescence all day. You really It's an incredible show.
But
The
one thing about it though, that what makes it consistent with everything we're doing around the world is those teams. What's unique, I think, about the company, what unique about what we're doing is the teams there have absolute autonomy around what they program for the country.
and when you
So
see that, do you say, "Oh, like, this will be good in England and maybe it'll hit elsewhere?"
yeah,
Is that part of your
yeah,
calculation?
it's a bit of a windfall. Like you mentioned Squid Game earlier. Squid Game was made for Korea. By Korean television standards, it was quite expensive, but it was not the defense of it wasn't, oh, it's going to get watched everywhere because that was absolutely
Did that
nobody.
thought cross your mind when you first saw it?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, we knew that we had big K-drama audiences and, in pockets all around the country and around the world. But the truth was this was something that was very different than typical K. It was not romantic for sure. It certainly wasn't
Very
a
strange, yeah.
tearjerker. It was a very straight, but very, very Korean.
Yeah.
So if you're into which I'm a fan of like Bong Joon-ho and those early
Right,
Korean horror. It's
it was like Parasite, but fun. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know what the pitch for
No,
that
but
is.
that's the tone. That is a very consistent tone in
Yeah.
Japanese or in Korean horror. So I do feel like there's an opportunity there to do the thing that is authentically correct. The thing that travels the best is not the thing that is the softest version of it. It's actually the hardest version of it.
So in a way, there's
That
no
travels
such thing as global TV. Global
No,
none of the good stuff is the most rooted in a way.
100%. The more authentically local it is, the more likely it is to travel.
Huh, I think that's
Yeah.
an interesting spin on globalization,
Yeah, because I
deglobalization.
think people see that and they see and watch a movie that, where they put somebody from India and someone from Mexico. So it's like I don't ever see that in the world. People
Yeah.
that aren't even speaking the same language to each other. So it's
Huh.
we tried that. We had a show called Sense8 that was like that.
Huh.
And in our earliest
But it was
days,
meant to tap a quote unquote global
it
audience?
was kind of engineered to be that, and it
Interesting.
was actually the shortcoming. It was actually the failure of the show was that. If everyone would have been when they were in Germany, they should have been speaking German.
Right. That's so interesting. The you've talked about Netflix becoming $1 trillion company. Netflix is in fact up this year. And the stock's at an all-time high. Not true of a lot of companies. Still a long way to $1 trillion. We're trying to do the math. Like you sell, I mean, you sell a $10, $8 subscription to like every single American and a lot of other people, and maybe you get to 1 billion subs, and maybe you're $1 trillion company. But I think we sort of concluded you got to start getting into some other businesses. Do you open theme parks? Like,
Well, just to be clear, the $1 trillion is a long-term ambition. It's not a guidance or anything.
oh, for sure. Oh, yes.
So,
Yeah, sorry. Do not trade on this. No, but seriously, like, are there just to focus the question? That can't just be a streaming business. What's the next
So
business Netflix goes into?
the things that just the parts that we do
Yeah.
is $650 billion in consumer spending. We're about 5% of that now. We are about 10% of total TV watching time in
Mhm.
our most penetrated, most mature markets. So enormous room to grow
Sure, yeah.
just in the things that we do. In the previous 5 years, we doubled our revenue, we grew profits 10 times, and we grew our market cap 3 times. So there's a path to it, obviously. But it all is incredibly dependent on executing well. We
But I
could not
don't
have done that if we didn't execute well.
but so you do you then sort of reject that thesis that to get to that kind of scale, you're gonna have to find theme parks or I don't know, some other business, not just a linear growth?
Yeah, I'd say in the core businesses that we're in, there is a linear growth path. Not to say that we won't be more adventurous in what we look at as we get bigger and broader, But like last night, we opened a show on Broadway, which is part Broadway show, part thrill ride. It's the origin story of Stranger Things, called Stranger Things First Shadow. It's a unbelievable experience. So when you see it, your head fills with possibilities of the power and the passion that people have for the IP, and how do you know, connect with people in different ways.
You say Stranger Things is the most developed, most valuable IP you guys have ever created?
The most developed for sure. We're going. We'll wrap up the next season. Will be the wrap of the show. It'll be 10 years. It has got an enormous consumer products line. We sell Surfer Boy Pizza, and Walmart is the #1 frozen pizza brand in Walmart.
Okay, so that's, I mean,
So
maybe
there's a
that's
bunch of
the,
there's a lot of those
is
things.
that the path to $1 trillion? Just
You know, we invest in all those things to really build on the fandom and to deepen the fandom with consumers.
yeah.
People want to express their fandom for things.
So a lot of that is
So
basically, I mean, the Broadway is
mostly
marketing
mostly marketing, yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than a sort of new business.
Yeah, consumer product businesses tend to be fairly low margin, but in scale, it's real revenue. But I do think it's the main one though is that it drives the marketing of the brand and the association and the relationship with the storytelling.
What else is sort of in that pipeline for you in terms of IP?
Um,
I mean, Squid Game, obviously, right?
yeah, Squid Game will outlive itself for sure. So right now we've got the Squid Game experience. We're right now
Who
doing.
wants that?
They're sold. They're sold
It's
out.
in Times Square, right?
It is
I've walked by that
sold out every day.
like you crossed the street to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like second prize, yes. First prize, no Squid Game experience.
People love it, and it travels all over the world. And we are opening our first two called the Netflix House, which is a very large permanent structures, and one in Philadelphia, one in Dallas.
Huh.
That is going to be like uh, dining, obviously, some experiential retail and ticketed experiences. That
Huh.
will rotate around. Kind of not a theme park for
Is that a
sure.
baby step toward a theme park?
Or it's the next generation of what a theme park might be, which is I look at things like Top Golf and the way that people go and have they'll go 4 or 5 times a year, bring their family and go 4 or
Huh.
5 times a year versus something you do once every 5 years. And it's, you know, much more fluid and
So
changes.
subscription theme parks.
Not enough to these things. But it'll be those things that we've been proving around the world is traveling these experiences like the Bridgerton Ball, which would you rather go to, the Squid Game challenge
I'll
or the
take the
Bridgerton Ball?
Bridgerton one.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. So, and this is basically people go. We've had at least 7 that we know of marriage proposals at Bridgerton balls,
Huh.
but fans come in costume at their own expense and their own time, and go to this 4-hour experience of the experience of the Bridgerton ball.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And I think people, just like I said, there's a very unique relationship with IP and storytelling, and people who express who they are through the shows that they love.
Do you Disney
So
obviously.
this with the Netflix houses will bring scale to that traveling operation.
Yeah, I mean, so as I think about this, I mean, Disney obviously has created and pioneered that business, but there's also a sense of like, well, I know what a Disney movie is. I know what a Disney
Yeah.
character is.
We went the opposite.
It's pretty circumscribed, and so I know when I'm going to Disney World, it's sort of like Disney is a brand that stands for kind of family friendly and a certain kind of entertainment. I don't think. I mean, do you want Netflix to become a brand that stands for a kind of entertainment?
No, in fact, our brand is personalization. So
Right. So Netflix.
your favorite.
So why would I go to Netflix House? Like
You-
I might run into like Bill Tony or David Chappelle. But I don't know.
You probably won't hate this. Just like
Yeah.
when it's on the site, you probably don't see it much. When you go there, you go specifically to do your.
There are many doors in Netflix
Yeah,
House.
that's right. That's right. You come into whatever
House with many
the
rooms.
one the entrance you choose. But like just as an example, Monday in Las Vegas, we had
Yeah.
a Monday Night Raw. It was the day after WrestleMania, so we had a brunch at the Netflix restaurant at the MGM Hotel called Netflix Bites, and we had live chamber music from Bridgerton at the wrestling brunch, and that's the interesting thing.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like this sounds like a crazy theme park.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I hope so.
Hmm. How close did you guys come to going into China? Can you talk about the thinking back then,
Yeah, no,
10, 15 years ago?
15 years ago, everyone thought it was existential. So you had to get to China. And for us, it's like I put in a couple of years of trying to do it.
What did that mean, going back and forth, meeting
Back-
with their,
back and
their
forth
sort of
meeting.
censorship board, whatever it is?
Yeah, so we actually had a deal with a company called Aichi to license our content to them because we can't operate in China. You have to have a license, and it's licensed by the government, and they actually will block you onto the internet. So we're a pure play Western media company. This is not direct to consumer. This is not what China really is looking for. But we did this deal, and then the one part of the deal was the content had to clear the censorship board to make it to the air. And in 3 years, not a single episode of a single Netflix show cleared the censorship board.
Not one.
Not one. Not one.
So what did you take? So did you then just walk away?
Yeah, they have no interest. They had no interest in us being in China. So for me, I watched everybody spend the next decade grinding out all of their time to get there, and ultimately ended up in the same place I did, which is
I
nowhere.
mean, it wasn't. I think it was not a
Even
huge.
Chinese box office, even though they
Yeah,
pennies on the dollar from
and I think it wasn't a huge cost to your competitors, but maybe it was a big time suck. Do you think it was?
I
Do you
think
think that was a big mistake with
because
Netflix?
there had to be opportunity costs in that decade spent chasing.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you relieved you didn't know?
Yeah, I mean, we're one of the rare companies in the US that has no exposure to China. I mean, no exposure to China censorship, Chinese taxes, Chinese tariffs, Chinese anything. And there's a big business that in the rest of the world that is happy to host Netflix. Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks.